Hello everyone, I'm Terry Duke and welcome to my channel. Recently, I've made a tutorial on how to install mods for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, and one constant problem with Bannerlord is that it gets regular updates that often make the mods incompatible. And while it is possible via Steam to change the version of the game to play older mods, the problem with this feature is that every time you change versions, Steam has to download and install said version. This doesn't mean the game has to completely reinstall, but often it's several gigabytes worth of changes and it can take a while to update. This is especially annoying if you have several mods split across several versions. In the process of finding a solution, I watched a guide by Torior from a few years ago about how you can have different versions of a Steam game installed and swap between them to play different mods. This video will show you how to do this, but to be clear, based on my experience, it's not worth it. The reason being that the game weighs over 40 gigabytes, and the time it takes Steam to validate the game files when you change versions is about as long as it takes to download different versions of the game anyway. So unless you have a very slow internet connection, you don't really gain any time by swapping versions. However, if you want to find out how to do this and experiment yourself, just keep watching. And yes, I give the credit for this method to Torior. This here is merely an attempt at saying the same stuff more efficiently. Link to his video in the description. So to have multiple versions of a game, we need to understand how Steam works. When you install a game on your computer, Steam will create two folders with the game's name. One is for the game itself, in the Steam library folder. The second folder is in Documents and includes configuration files and sometimes your saves. Now, Steam can only connect to the folders if they keep the names generated by Steam, which is usually just the name of the game. If you rename either folder, what will happen is Steam will think the game is not installed at all and proceed to reinstall the game in a folder with the proper name. Let me show you. I'm going to add the beta version number to my folders and then launch the game. See? It has to reinstall, and going back to the game location on the computer, a new folder has been generated. So what this means is you can duplicate both folders of a game and rename them as many times as you wish, and Steam will only connect to the one folder that has the proper name at any given time. For this tutorial, I have this Lord of the Rings mod that is only compatible with version 1.7.1. As of this video, the latest version of the game is 1.8.0. So to show you how to have multiple versions, I'm basically going to have two versions of the game set to each version, and then I will swap between them to play a mod on an older version and go back to playing a regular game on the latest version. So currently, I set Bannerlord to beta 1.8.0. Going into the Bannerlord folders, both in the Steam library and Documents, I have a Bannerlord folder with all the content. These folders contain Bannerlord version 1.8.0. Select both folders and with the keyboard, hit Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V. This will cause the folder to make a copy of itself, which will use the same name but end with the word copy. So now I have two folders. Both have versions 1.8.0, but Steam only links with the first folder because it's the one that's properly named. So now I want Steam to link to the copy. To do that, I'm going to name my original folder and add 1.8.0 to its name for reference, and remove the word copy from the copied folder. Now when I launch Bannerlord, it will link to the second folder. Reminder though, you have to do this for both the folder in the Steam library and the folder in Documents. For the location of the Steam game itself, again, head to Steam, right-click on Bannerlord, Local Files, Browse. Then just go back one level to see the game folder itself. Now I'm going to go back into Steam and change the beta version to 1.7.1. Steam will proceed to update the game files for the current version. But remember, we still have the game folders with version 1.8.0, so with the Bannerlord version changed to 1.7.1, I can now load the Lord of the Rings mod following the order indicated on the mod page. And there we go, I'm now playing the Battle for Helm's Deep on version 1.7.1 of Bannerlord. To swap back to 1.8.0 without making the game update, I'm going back to the folder locations. I will rename the current folders by adding 1.7.1 for reference and rename the 1.8.0 version into the regular name. Now I can go back to Steam, change the beta version to 1.8.0, and Steam will simply validate the files instead of updating. When it's done, you can launch the game back to 1.8.0. But again, as you can see for yourself here, the time it takes to validate the game files is so long that unless I missed something else, there's really no point. In fact, I don't know if it's for 1.8.0 specifically, but even as it validates, it ends up reinstalling parts of the game, so it doesn't really seem to work for me. But that was the Torior tip to have several game versions. I want to point out though that in his tutorial, he does it with Crusader Kings 2, which weighs about 2 gigabytes, while Bannerlord weighs over 40. So feel free to experiment, but I think you're better off just changing Steam versions on the go. I know it's not ideal, but neither is early access, quite frankly. Anyway, thank you for watching. If this video was helpful to you, you can show some appreciation with a like and subscribe so I can make YouTube my actual job someday. In the next few weeks, I'll be sharing my favorite mods of Bannerlord on my channel, so hopefully I'll see you then.